Tired of dealing with annoying flies, fruit flies, and gnats in your home? The Zevo Flying Insect Trap is your ultimate solution. Don't wait. Check out the link in the video description now to get your Zevo Flying Insect Trap on Amazon and enjoy a bug-free home today.
When Kiefer Sutherland enters the room to sit down with us at the Gibson garage, he immediately grabs a guitar off the wall and energetically breaks into song, effectively holding a room full of people musically hostage. Nobody seems to mind, though, such is his charm. Following 5 or so minutes of his impromptu performance, the 57-year-old actor is introspective and warm. He goes into almost cinematic detail about his time in the rodeo, his long career, and the importance of living an unexpected life. He also spoke at great length about his beloved father and fellow acting icon Donald Sutherland, who died aged 88 a short while after our meeting. Kiefer's comments are particularly touching now, in retrospect. He broke the news himself on June 20th, posting online, "With a heavy heart, I tell you that my father, Donald Sutherland, has passed away. I personally think one of the most important actors in the history of film. Never daunted by a role, good, bad or ugly. He loved what he did and did what he loved, and one can never ask for more than that. A life well lived." It's obvious throughout his disarmingly open chat with us that Kiefer sees his father as a bona fide cultural icon. With pride in his voice, he explains that it wasn't until later in his life that he understood the significance of his father's contributions to Hollywood. "My dad was a world-famous actor. And I knew that as a young person, but I hadn't seen any of his films. And that's because I wasn't allowed. It wasn't because my mom and dad broke up. You couldn't take a 10-year-old into a restricted movie, and all my dad's movies were restricted." The actor recalls a day that changed his life when he was 18 or 19 foot and watched almost all of his father's greatest films in one sitting. Even all these years later he can, almost, remember the exact films. "I was staying at a friend's house and he had this vast, homemade VHS collection. And he had about 6 of my dad's films, and I think in 2 days I watched Fellini's Casanova, Bertolucci's 1900, Kelly's Heroes, M*A*S*H*H*, I think was one of them. And I'm missing one. It's a Nick Craig film, one of my favorite films ever." He gives up on remembering the title of Don't Look Now, continuing, "I phoned him up and I said, I feel really bad. I feel like a bad son." He pauses, recalling the conversation with his father. "I said, look, I'm just absolutely floored by the diversity of all of these characters. I knew you were famous. You know, I didn't know how special you were, and how good, and I'm really sorry." And my father said, "Well, how could you know? How could you have seen those films?" He stalls again, recalling the actor's paternal concern, and breaks into a grin as he relates what his father asked him next. "Whose house are you staying at?" It's evident that his famous dad still remains something of an enigma to Kiefer, particularly when it comes to his own name, Kiefer William Frederick Dempsey George Rufus Sutherland. He laughs and says he's as clueless as the rest of us about why he has as many titles as a Regency Duke. Counting on his fingers, he says, "One is my mother's maiden name. George was a really close friend of my dad's. I never found out who Rufus was. There are some others. So yeah, his father, never answered the question, and my mom didn't fill out the birth certificate. He did. I know that she wasn't amused by it," he chuckles. But he certainly wouldn't credit his famous parents with his success. When questioned on the topic, he initially acts like he has no idea what Nepo baby discourse is, replying, "I don't have a computer," and letting the silence hang for a long moment. But despite his supposed lack of internet access, he has considered the issue of nepotism in Hollywood in some depth and is happy to share his thoughts after some nudging. "So the part of the argument that I kind of don't understand is if I look at James & Sons, the best carpenters in the business. Yeah, it's like, no one's got a problem with his 2 sons being carpenters because he was a carpenter. He looks over to ensure the impact is being adequately felt. It's what you're exposed to." He does concede, "I'm aware of how fortunate I am. I left home at 15 years old and moved to New York and went to theater school, and I was already working then." He adds as an aside, "They actually kicked me out of theater school.